Today we're going to be learning how to assemble and set up an Ariens 2-stage Compact Sno-Thro. Before we begin, we're going to need some tools for the job. We'll need a knife or box cutter, a hammer, a flat punch, a small flat blade screwdriver, a socket wrench, a 7/16, ½ and 9/16 deep well socket. Let's begin. Remove the top of the box by cutting around all 4 sides using your knife or box cutter. Be very careful when using your knife or box cutter because it can be very easy to cut yourself. Remove the top of the box and set it aside. Next, remove the chute and rod and set those aside. We'll need those later. Next, we'll remove and recycle the cardboard inserts. Now that all the cardboard inserts have been taken out, let's go ahead and cut down all 4 corners of the box. Starting at the bottom using your knife or box cutter, slice upwards, being very careful not to cut yourself. Do this on all 4 corners of the box, and as shown here in the video, push down each side as it becomes separated from the rest of the box. Now that we can access the snowblower from all 4 sides, let's go ahead and take off the owner's manual off the rear of the snowblower. Let's also go ahead and remove the plastic packaging material that was shipped with the snowblower to protect it from damage. Using our wrench and ½ socket, let's take off the top bolts on each side of the handle. It may be possible to hand loosen these bolts, but if you get stuck, switch back to your wrench and ½ socket. Once the bolts are undone from both sides of the handle, carefully lift up the handle, making sure that the linkage lock is inside of the bolt. We're going to demonstrate here what the linkage lock should look like and what it shouldn't look like. Here is what the linkage lock should not look like. You'll see that the lock is on the outside of the bolt, and this is where the lock should be, inside of the bolt, as shown. Once the handle is properly in place, we'll take our bolt on one side of the snowblower, push it in place, put on our plastic bushing, washer, lock washer, and hand tighten the bolt. Now we're going to move to the other side and do the same thing. Pushing in and locking in the bolt, then the plastic bushing, the washer, lock washer, and bolt. Now that we've hand tightened in both sides, let's use our wrench and ½ socket to tighten them down the rest of the way. Make sure you don't over tighten though. The plastic bushings can be cracked very easily. Once we're finished tightening down the handle, let's move on to the linkage. Using our wrench and 7/16" socket, let's tighten it down. Be careful not to over tighten, but make sure it's snug. Now let's unpack the chute. Holding it by the black bar, carry the chute over to the snowblower. You'll want to stand on the left side of the snowblower. Carefully place the chute on top of the chute opening on the snowblower, and on the back of the snowblower are 2 bolts. Hand loosen those until they're completely out of the snowblower. Then, slide the black bar attached to the snowblower chute across as shown. Carefully hand tighten both bolts back into the snowblower. Once both bolts have been hand tightened, let's use our wrench and 9/16 socket to make sure they're tight. Be careful not to over tighten these as you could bend the black metal rod. At the top of the chute assembly, you'll need to remove a small pin. Using your flat blade screwdriver, carefully pull this pin out and set it aside, because we'll need it later. The hole where we just removed the pin will line up with the chute control rod. Taking the longer end of the chute control rod, feed it through the back end of the snowblower, all the way through, and into the hole on the top of the chute assembly. We'll want to make sure that this lines up properly so we can get the pin back in, so you might have to wiggle it back and forth to get it to work. Once we've lined up the hole, we'll place the pin inside the hole and push it in a little bit with our hand. It's very difficult to push this all the way in by hand, so we'll use our hammer and flat punch and tap it in place. This is what the finished product should look like. On the back of the snowblower, just to the left of where we put the chute control rod through, is a pin and a spacer. Remove the pin, then the spacer. Next, we'll take the cable, feed it through the handle of the snowblower, and attach it to the spot where we just removed the spacer and the pin. Reattach the spacer, and then the pin, to lock the cable into place. Just in front of the pin and spacer is a hole in the black metal. Push the cable into that hole to lock it into place. On the top of the cable is a hook. Attach that to the chute control rod and try to get rid of any slack in the line. Next, remove the plastic wrapping from the front of the snowblower. We'll also want to remove the small advertisements from the choke lever and the gas cap. Remove the gas cap to remove the advertisement. Next, we'll test our chute control. Move it back and forth to make sure the chute moves left and right as it should. The next thing we want to test is our chute's up and down motion. Before we even think about starting the snowblower for the first time, we'll want to add oil. Check your owner's manual for the proper weight and amount to put into your snowblower's engine. Add oil as needed or recommended by your owner's manual. Make sure you check and check again until the proper amount of oil is in your engine. As you can see here, we've added oil, checked again, and we're good. Now let's add fuel. Make sure you read your owner's manual for proper fuel specifications for your area. We recommend 89 octane fuel. When you're adding fuel, we recommend a non-spill gas can. If you do happen to spill anywhere on the snowblower or the ground, make sure you clean it up quickly with a rag. Attached to the handle of the snowblower is the key. Using your knife or box cutter, carefully remove the key. Then place the key into the engine. Here's a quick guide to proper starting technique. Turn up the throttle all the way, turn on the ignition, set the choke to full, prime twice, and start the machine. Once the machine is warm, open the choke. Now that the snowblower is running, the first thing we're going to do is test the auger control. Next, we'll test the drive. Once we're satisfied with the snowblower, we'll turn down the throttle and turn off the ignition. Next, we'll test the electric start. Plug in your Ariens power cord or extension cord into the electric start unit and go through the normal steps to start. Turning up the throttle, setting the choke, turning on the ignition, and priming. Click the electric start button to start. Once the engine is started, unplug the power cord. Once the engine is warm, adjust the choke. Again, to turn off the engine, reduce the throttle, and turn off the ignition. It's a good idea to write down your model and serial number, found on the back of the machine. The model type and code is also found on the side of the engine. Write this information in your Briggs & Stratton owner's manual. You'll also want to record the date of purchase of the machine. You will also want to record your Ariens model and serial number in the Ariens manual provided. It is also a good idea to record the engine, model type, and code in the same manual. Don't forget to register your machine, mail in your warranty card, or go online to register today.